The emergency session had been going for 6 hours straight. Council representatives from 17 species shouted over each other, while holographic displays showed system after system falling to red. The swarm had taken another colony world overnight. 3 billion souls consumed and converted into more bioships for their endless fleet. Ambassador Grace Reed sat in the observer section, watching carefully as panic spread through the most powerful governing body in the galaxy. She had attended dozens of these sessions since humanity earned its probationary membership, but never had she seen such raw fear in the eyes of beings who had ruled the stars for millennia. "We must conscript every able body from every member world." The Scales War Commander slammed his clawed fist against the marble podium, his reptilian features twisted in frustration. "Double our fleet production, triple our ammunition reserves, throw everything we have at them." A Chitauri delegate raised her insected head, compound eyes reflecting the grim tactical displays. "Commander, we have thrown everything at them. 40% of our combined military strength has been eliminated in 3 months. The swarm adapts to every weapon we deploy, learns from every tactic we employ, and grows stronger with each world they consume." The gaseous form of a Lumen's representative shimmered with distressed colors. "My people are fleeing the outer colonies, entire populations abandoning their homes because they know death is coming. We cannot ask them to stand and fight when every battle ends in annihilation." Grace listened as the Depth's ambassador proposed complete withdrawal to fortified core worlds, abandoning billions of citizens in the outer rim to buy time. The suggestion horrified some delegates and tempted others. Fear made people consider options they would never accept in calmer times. A junior Chitauri analyst stepped forward with trembling antennae. "Honored Council, I have prepared updated projections based on current swarm advancement rates." The holographic display shifted, showing a timeline that made several delegates gasp. "At their current pace, the swarm will reach our core worlds, including all Council homeworlds, within 6 months, perhaps less if they accelerate consumption as projected." Silence fell over the chamber, the kind of heavy, suffocating silence that comes when hope dies. These were species who had conquered faster-than-light travel, built megastructures, and maintained peace across thousands of worlds. Now they faced an enemy that treated all their achievements as nothing more than raw materials. Grace stood, her movement caught the attention of several nearby delegates. Human observers rarely spoke during council sessions. They were too new, too primitive by galactic standards, barely worth acknowledging most days. "Honored Council," Grace's voice cut through the murmuring, calm and measured, "humanity would like to offer assistance." The Scales commander turned toward her, his expression shifting from surprise to dismissive anger. "With respect, Ambassador Reed, your species has been spacefaring for 50 years. You have colonized 3 systems. You possess no military fleet capable of engaging threats of this magnitude. What could you possibly offer that our combined armadas have not already attempted?" Grace walked down the steps from the observer section, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. "You are correct that humanity lacks your technological superiority, your numbers, or your experience with galactic-scale warfare." She reached the main floor, standing among beings who towered over her small frame. "But we have something you currently lack. We have perspective." A Lumen's delegate pulsed with curiosity. "What do you mean, Ambassador?" "Every species in this chamber has approached the swarm the same way." Grace activated her personal datapad, pulling up the combat reports humanity had studied from the shared military database. "You meet them with overwhelming force. You match their bioships with your capital vessels. You attempt to outproduce their reproduction rate. You fight them as if they are simply another fleet to be defeated in conventional warfare." The Chitauri analyst tilted her head. "Because that is what they are, a hostile fleet that must be eliminated." "No," Grace said quietly. "They are not a fleet, they are a biological system. Treating them like a traditional military force is why you keep losing." She enlarged a tactical display showing swarm movement patterns. "Look at their behavior. They do not retreat. They do not negotiate. They consume and expand like a virus. Every time you escalate force, they adapt and grow stronger from the conflict. You are feeding them exactly what they need to evolve. The Depth's ambassador leaned forward, water rippling. Across their transparent containment suit, "Are you suggesting we surrender?" "I am suggesting we stop playing their game." Grace pulled up a new schematic. "Humanity would like to deploy an experimental vessel to the current front lines. We believe we have identified a fundamental weakness in the swarm's operational structure." The chamber erupted in protests. The Scales commander's voice rose above the others. "This is madness. You want to send one ship where entire fleets have failed? Your crew would be throwing their lives away for nothing." Grace remained calm. "The swarm expects overwhelming force. They have evolved to counter it. They have never encountered what we are about to send." She met the commander's eyes. "Our ship is already en route. The crew volunteered. They understand the risks." "You deployed without authorization." The Chitauri analyst sounded more fascinated than offended. "That violates probationary protocols." "We did not ask for permission to help," Grace said firmly. "We asked if you wanted our help based on this session. The answer seems to be yes." She returned to her datapad. "The vessel is called Prometheus, crew of 47 humans, currently 3 days from the swarm's primary concentration point in the Epsilon sector." The Scales commander studied the technical readout Grace displayed. "This appears to be a mining vessel, heavily modified but still fundamentally civilian infrastructure. Ambassador, I must insist you recall this ship immediately. Sending your people to certain death serves no purpose." Grace saved her data and looked up at the towering alien warrior. "Commander, humanity did not crawl out of caves, survive ice ages, split the atom, and reach the stars by accepting that any challenge was impossible." She glanced around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from species that had pitied humanity's primitive status. "We learned something during our violent history that perhaps you never needed to learn. We learned that sometimes the right answer is not more force, but different thinking." She walked back toward the observer section, then paused. "The Prometheus will engage the swarm in approximately 72 hours. I suggest you watch. You might learn something about how Earth fights impossible odds." As Grace took her seat, the council chamber descended into chaos again. Arguments erupted about protocol violations, proper military procedure, and the foolishness of the newest species in the galaxy. But several delegates, including the curious Chitauri analyst, pulled up tracking data for the Prometheus. Watching a single human vessel move steadily toward a concentration of swarm bioships that had destroyed 3 full battle groups in the past month. Far from the Council's panicked debates, in the black between stars, a ungainly converted mining ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of a system being consumed. Captain Ann Davis stood on her bridge, looking at sensor readings that showed thousands of swarm vessels harvesting another dying world. "Well," she said to her crew, "time to show them what one ship can do." Sensor arrays painted a picture of systematic destruction. The swarm's bioships moved across the dying colony world below like locusts through crops, converting everything they touched into raw organic material. Captain Ann Davis had seen videos of swarm attacks, but witnessing one in real time made her stomach turn. 18,000 bioships in this system alone, Commander Reggie Torres reported from the navigation station, his voice steady despite the overwhelming numbers. "They are ignoring the civilian evacuation shuttles, focusing entirely on planetary infrastructure and the few remaining defense platforms." Davis nodded, studying the tactical display with the practiced eye of someone who had spent 20 years mining asteroids in the belt before the military recruited her. "They are efficient predators, no wasted motion, pure optimization of resources." She turned to the xenobiology station. "Dr. Sato, behavioral analysis." Dr. Yuki Sato looked up from her instruments, excitement mixing with professional concern on her face. "Captain, this is remarkable. The bioships are not operating as independent units. Watch their formation patterns." She highlighted several clusters on the main display. "They move in perfect synchronization, responding to threats with coordinated precision that would take our fleet's hours of communication to achieve. Hive mind, Davis said. Exactly, Sato enlarged the sensor data. They are using some form of pheromone-based communication network, probably biochemical signals transmitted through space itself. When one bioship detects a threat, the entire local swarm responds instantly. It is the ultimate military coordination, no chain of command, no delayed orders, just pure collective response. Pilot Claire Abbott whistled from her station. No wonder the Council fleets keep getting massacred. Every time they engage, they are fighting one giant organism instead of individual ships. Engineer Pavel Kozlov emerged from the access corridor, wiping synthetic lubricant from his hands. All modifications are operational. The projection arrays are calibrated. Power systems are stable. He grinned, showing the enthusiasm that made him both brilliant and occasionally reckless. We are ready to become the galaxy's biggest illusion. Davis called her senior staff together around the tactical display. Final review. We all know the plan, but I want everyone crystal clear before we commit. She pulled up the three-phase operation outline. Phase 1. We draw their attention. The Prometheus will project false sensor signatures, making us appear as a massive council fleet. Tors pointed to the projection zones. Thousands of fake ships, each one mimicking perfect energy signatures of galactic vessels, to the swarm's sensors. It will look like the largest fleet ever assembled just appeared from nowhere. Phase 2, Davis continued. We lead them on a chase through the system, guiding them to a specific location while maintaining the illusion. She looked at Claire. That is where your flying skills become critical. We need to stay ahead of them but keep them interested. Claire nodded confidently. I have run the simulations 40 times. I can thread a needle with this bucket if needed. Phase 3, Pavel took over, explaining his engineering contribution. We activate the surprise we have been seeding throughout this system for the past week. He displayed the network of devices they had covertly deployed. Industrial mining charges, thousands of them, arranged in a three-dimensional grid. When the swarm follows us into the kill zone, we detonate. But not to destroy them, Sato added. The explosive force is secondary. What matters is the electromagnetic pulse each charge generates. We have tuned the frequency specifically to disrupt biochemical pheromone transmission. Davis saw understanding dawn on her crew's faces. We are going to cut off their hive mind, separate the individual bioships from the collective intelligence, turn their greatest strength into critical vulnerability. After that, Tors said, the support fleet moves in 6. Human warships waiting at the system's edge. Once the swarm is fragmented and confused, our ships engage with conventional weapons against disorganized targets. Davis looked at each member of her crew. Questions, concerns, last chance to voice them. Security Chief Rachel Park spoke up. Captain, if the projection system fails, we will have 18,000 very angry bioships converging on our actual position. Correct, Davis acknowledged. Which is why Pavel built redundancy into every system. We have backup projectors, backup power, backup backups. She smiled slightly. Besides, we are the ship that convinced the Council we were crazy enough to try this, living up to expectations. The crew shared brief laughter, tension breaking for a moment. These were people who had volunteered for what the galaxy considered a suicide mission. They trusted each other and their captain completely. Galactic Command is hailing, the communications officer announced. They are ordering us to withdraw immediately. Tell them we are experiencing communication difficulties, Davis said. Should clear up in about 4 hours. She turned to Pavel. Power up the projection arrays, time to become a fleet. The Prometheus's modified systems hummed to life. Energy readings spiked across the electromagnetic spectrum. Suddenly, from the perspective of swarm sensors, a single mining vessel transformed into thousands of warships, battle cruisers, carriers, destroyers, an entire armada materializing in perfect formation. On the dying world below, the swarm detected the threat immediately. Bioships stopped their harvesting operations. Pheromone signals rippled through the hive network at the speed of thought. 18,000 organic vessels turned as one, oriented toward the new threat, and began to accelerate. "They are taking the bait," Sato reported, watching the behavioral response with professional fascination. "Every single bioship in the system is converging on our position. The hive mind has identified us as the primary threat." Tors checked the incoming vectors. Estimated time to engagement, 4 minutes. Davis settled into her command chair. "Claire, get us moving. Lead them exactly where we planned. Pavel, keep those projections stable. We need them to believe they are chasing a fleet until we reach the trap." The Prometheus turned and accelerated, its enhanced engines pushing the converted mining vessel to speeds that would surprise most military craft. Behind them, like a swarm of insects following pheromone trails, 18,000 bioships gave chase. The pursuit carved across the system. The Prometheus wove through asteroid fields and orbital debris, maintaining just enough distance to keep the swarm engaged while leading them steadily toward the predetermined coordinates. Claire's piloting was precise, using gravitational assists and momentum to conserve fuel while making the chase look desperate. "Approaching the kill zone," Tors announced. 30 seconds. Davis opened channels to both Galactic Command and the human support fleet. "All units, Phase 1 complete. Every swarm vessel in this system is now pursuing us. Beginning Phase 2, she looked at Pavel. "Are they bunched up enough?" Pavel studied the formation display. Hive coordination is forcing them into a tight pursuit pattern. They are practically on top of each other, perfect for what comes next. 20 seconds, Tors counted down. The Prometheus crossed an invisible boundary in space. Nothing marked the location except coordinates in the navigation computer, but surrounding them in a three-dimensional sphere, thousands of small devices floated dormant, waiting for activation. 10 seconds. Davis watched the swarm close in. 18,000 bioships, each one a nightmare of organic technology, all focused on destroying what they believed was a massive fleet, all falling perfectly into humanity's trap. 5 seconds. Her finger hovered over the activation switch. "Captain," Sato said urgently, "I am reading a massive energy spike from the planet's debris field. Something big is powering up. This does not match any previous swarm behavior." Davis felt cold certainty settle in her chest. "We have been fighting the fingers while the hand prepared to strike." She activated the mining charges anyway. "All ships, combat alert, Phase 2, execute now." Space itself seemed to shudder as thousands of mining charges activated simultaneously. The electromagnetic pulses erupted in precise waves, creating a disruption field that stretched across cubic kilometers. The effect on the swarm was immediate and devastating. Bioships that had moved with perfect coordination suddenly jerked and twisted. The pheromone network that connected them fractured under the electromagnetic interference. 18,000 vessels that operated as one organism became 18,000 confused individuals. "Direct hit on their hive connection," Dr. Sato reported, watching her instruments with scientific excitement. "The biochemical signal transmission is completely disrupted. They cannot communicate, cannot coordinate, cannot function as a collective." The tactical display showed chaos. Bioships collided with each other. Some attempted to flee in random directions, others simply drifted, their limited individual intelligence unable to process the sudden isolation from the hive mind. A few tried to attack the Prometheus, but without coordinated tactics, Claire easily evaded them. Commander Tors opened channels to Galactic Command. "This is Prometheus to all observing units. The swarm hive network has been successfully disrupted. Individual bioships are now vulnerable to conventional engagement." On dozens of worlds, in hundreds of command centers, military leaders of 17 species watched in stunned silence. The unstoppable swarm, the nightmare that had consumed 40% of their combined fleets, was falling apart because humans had asked a different question, not how to fight them, but how they actually worked. Phase 3, initiate, Captain Davis ordered. 6 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. The Roosevelt, a carrier bristling with fighter craft, the Endeavour, a destroyer built for precision strikes, 4 support vessels equipped with railguns and missile pods. They were not massive capital ships. Humanity lacked the industrial base for such construction, but against confused, isolated bioships, they were more than adequate. Prometheus, this is Admiral Foster on the Roosevelt. The carrier commander's voice carried professional pride. You set a beautiful table, time for us to join the feast. Good hunting, Admiral, Davis replied. Try to capture a few intact specimens. Dr. Sato wants to dissect them. The human fleet moved into attack formation, engaging isolated bioships with calculated precision. Railgun slugs punched through organic hulls. Missiles tracked individual targets. Fighter craft swarmed around larger bioships like wasps around beetles. The battle was methodical, professional, completely one-sided. Pavel monitored the mining charges. Pulse field is stable. We have another 3 hours of disruption coverage, more than enough time to clean up. This system, over the next 2 hours, the human fleet systematically eliminated or captured the swarm presence. What would have been a desperate, costly battle against a coordinated hive became target practice against scattered individuals. The difference was staggering. The casualty ratio was unprecedented. At the Galactic Council, the Chitauri analyst ran calculations that seemed impossible. They achieved in one engagement what 3 battle groups could not accomplish in a month. She turned to Ambassador Grace Reed. The tactical efficiency is beyond our projections. How did your species develop such an understanding of hive mind vulnerabilities? Grace smiled. Earth has social insects, ants, bees, termites. We have studied collective behavior for centuries. We know that the strength of the hive is also its weakness. Disrupt the communication, and the collective collapses into confused individuals. The Lumen's representative pulsed with emotional colors. You turned their greatest advantage into their fatal flaw. The coordination that made them unstoppable became the vulnerability that defeated them. The Scales war commander stared at the tactical feeds, grudging respect in his expression. They fought with intelligence instead of brute force, strategy instead of escalation. He looked at Grace. Humanity has much to teach us, Ambassador. But Dr. Sato's instruments detected something that changed everything. Captain, that energy spike I mentioned earlier, it is still growing. She pulled up sensor data from the planet's debris field. There is a structure hidden in the remains of the colony world. It is massive, and it is definitely swarm in origin. Davis felt her satisfaction turn to concern. Define massive. 10 times the size of our largest capital ship. Sato's voice tightened. Captain, I think we have been fighting scout forces while something much bigger was building itself. From the planetary debris, organic material began to coalesce and rise. What emerged made every human ship's crew stop and stare. A structure of grotesque biological complexity, a cathedral of living tissue, bone, and pulsing bioluminescent patterns. It was beautiful and horrifying simultaneously. What in the name of? Admiral Foster's voice trailed off. Pavel ran every scan available. That thing is radiating energy like a small star. The biosignature is immense. It is more alive than anything we have encountered. Tors checked the galactic database frantically, searching for similar structures in historical records. His face went pale. Captain, there are references from extinct civilizations. They called it a nexus, a coordination hub for entire sectors of swarm forces. How many of these exist? Davis demanded. Unknown, Tors replied. No species has encountered one and survived to document it properly, but our long-range sensors are detecting similar energy signatures in 3 other heavily infested systems. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. The bioships were not the swarm. They were tools. The Nexus structures were the real threat. If they became operational, they could coordinate swarm attacks across half the galaxy simultaneously. Sato monitored the Nexus's energy patterns. It is in the final stages of initialization. Estimated time to full operation, 47 minutes. Davis made a decision that would change everything. All ships maintain position around the disabled bioships. She turned to Tors. How long would it take to get reinforcements here with enough firepower to destroy that thing? Weeks, Tors said grimly. Even if we scrambled every human vessel, by the time we arrived, it would be operational. The electromagnetic pulses that worked on bioships were having no effect on the Nexus. Its pheromone network was shielded by layers of organic armor, its complexity far beyond the simple bioships they had just defeated. Davis studied the Nexus, thinking like the miner she used to be. We cannot break through from the outside, she said slowly. So what if we do not try to? Her crew understood immediately. They had worked with her long enough to recognize that tone. You want to go inside, Pavel said, not asking, stating. It is organic, it grew, which means it has internal systems. Davis pulled up what little data they had. If we cannot disrupt it from out here, maybe we can find its control center from inside. Claire shook her head. Captain, we have no idea what is in there. The environment could be toxic, hostile, or just plain lethal. Which is why I am calling for volunteers, Davis said. I need a small team. We dock with that thing, we go inside, we find out what makes it work, and we shut it down. Every single member of the 47-person crew raised their hand. Davis selected her team, herself Dr. Sato for xenobiology expertise, Pavel for engineering, and 4 security personnel. Commander Tors would command the Prometheus in her absence. Admiral Foster protested over the comm. Captain, you do not have to lead this yourself. Yes, I do, Davis replied. If we are asking people to follow humanity into hell, a human should lead the way. As the Prometheus approached the Nexus, Grace Reed broadcast the moment to the entire Galactic Council. 17 species watched as the newest member of their community volunteered to face an unknown nightmare. The Scales commander stood in respect. They have earned more than our gratitude, he said quietly. They have earned our highest honors. The Prometheus extended a docking tube toward what appeared to be an opening in the Nexus's organic structure. The boarding team suited up, checking weapons and scanning equipment. Davis addressed both her crew and the watching galaxy. If we do not make it back, tell Earth we learned something important. They entered the Nexus. The interior of the Nexus defied every expectation. Walls pulsed with rhythmic contractions. Bioluminescent patterns traced paths through corridors of living tissue. The air was thick but breathable through their suit filters, warm and humid like a tropical greenhouse. This is remarkable. Dr. Sato's voice held wonder despite the danger. We are literally walking through a living brain. Every surface is neural tissue. The entire structure is one massive thinking organ. Captain Davis led her team deeper, weapons ready but encountering no resistance. Small maintenance organisms scuttled past them. Insectoid creatures the size of dogs that completely ignored the human intruders. Pavel scanned one as it passed. It does not recognize us as threats. The Nexus thinks we are part of itself, ultimate camouflage. They moved through passages that seemed to shift and grow around them, following energy readings toward what Sato identified as the central processing chamber. The deeper they went, the more complex the organic architecture became. Synapses the size of buildings fired in patterns, transmitting signals through biochemical reactions. I am reading technological signatures, Sato announced, surprise evident in her tone. Metal, circuitry, power sources, there is machinery integrated into the biological structure. They entered a vast chamber, and the team stopped, staring neural. Clusters covered every surface, pulsing with activity, but embedded throughout the living tissue were fragments of ancient technology. Circuit boards fused with organic matter, power conduits wrapped in veins, control interfaces grown over by flesh. Davis approached the nearest piece of technology, brushing away the biological growth. This is not swarm construction. This is too old, too different. Pavel examined multiple fragments, his engineering expertise recognizing patterns. Captain, this technology comes from dozens of different species, maybe hundreds. None of it matches current galactic designs. It is all ancient, possibly thousands of years old. The horrible truth settled over the team like a shroud. Sato voiced what they were all thinking. The swarm did not evolve naturally. It was created, built from the technology and biology of species that no longer exist. Davis studied the integrated systems. A biological weapon, something designed to consume and destroy. But why would anyone build something like this? Desperation, Sato suggested, pulling up readings on her scanner. A species facing extinction might create the ultimate weapon, something that could not be stopped, could not be reasoned with, just pure consumption and expansion. And they lost control, Pavel added grimly. Or they died before they could shut it down. Either way, the swarm kept going, following its programming long after its creators turned to dust. Rachel Park, the security chief, pointed to a central structure. That looks like a control interface, old, really old, but possibly functional. Before they could investigate further, the chamber's neural activity suddenly intensified. Waves of pheromone signals washed over them. The maintenance organisms that had ignored them now turned, compound eyes reflecting hostile intent. "It knows we are here," Davis said. "It knows we are not swarm," she made a split-second decision. "Tors, seal the docking port. Do not let anything in or out." Commander Tor's voice came back strained. "Captain, that will trap you inside." "I know," Davis checked her weapon. "But if this thing fully activates while we are still connected, it could consume the Prometheus. Seal it. That is an order." The organic walls began to close in, tendrils of living tissue reaching for the intruders. The security team opened fire, energy weapons cutting through biological matter. But for every tendril destroyed, two more grew in its place. "We need to reach that control interface," Davis shouted over the sounds of combat. "Move now." They fought their way across the chamber, Pavel providing covering fire while Sato ran ahead to the ancient technology. Tendrils grabbed at their suits. Rachel used a plasma cutter to sever one that caught her leg. The maintenance organisms swarmed, forcing the team into a defensive circle. Sato reached the interface, her hands flying over controls that had not been touched in millennia. "The system is still active, barely, but functional." She pulled up holographic displays in languages long dead. "I need time to translate this." "Time is something we are running out of." Davis fired at a particularly large tendril that tried to grab Pavel. "How long?" 10 minutes minimum." Sato did not look up from her work. "Maybe less if I can recognize the pattern logic." Davis opened her suit's emergency protocols. "Everyone, reroute power from life support to weapons. We can survive on emergency reserves long enough to finish this." Pavel understood immediately. "Captain, that gives us maybe 15 minutes before our oxygen runs out." "Then Sato better work fast." Davis fired again. "We came here to shut this thing down. We are not leaving until we do." The team disabled their life support systems, diverting every bit of power to their weapons and Sato's scanning equipment. The chamber's temperature was rising, organic matter trying to cook them alive inside their suits, but they held their ground. Sato worked frantically, piecing together fragments of ancient programming languages. The control interface responded slowly, showing system after system. "This is incredible. The swarm is not just in this system. It is galaxy-wide, thousands of bioships, dozens of nexus structures, all connected through a central network." "Can you shut it down?" Davis demanded, cutting through another wave of tendrils. "There is a command protocol here." Sato highlighted sections of the display. "A shutdown sequence, but it requires genetic authorization from the creator species, none of which exist anymore." Pavel saw the problem immediately. "Their DNA is gone, lost to time. We cannot fake an authorization we do not have samples for." Then Sato's eyes widened behind her helmet. Wait, the swarm consumed those species. Everything it consumes gets stored in its biomemory. Banks, the genetic material of every species it ever destroyed, is in here somewhere, including its creators. Understanding dawned on the team. They could synthesize the authorization key using DNA the swarm itself had collected. How long to synthesize and input the shutdown command? Davis asked. 8 minutes, Sato began the process. If I am right about the system architecture. Pavel checked their oxygen reserves. We have 12 minutes of emergency air left, cutting it close. The Nexus fought harder, sensing what they were attempting. Organic matter flooded the chamber. Security team members were grabbed and had to be cut free by their teammates. Rachel took a hit from a barbed tendril, her suit's integrity compromised. Keep working, Davis ordered Sato, then to her team. Whatever it takes, she finishes that synthesis. The minutes crawled by, combat, heat, dwindling oxygen. The team's movements became sluggish as their air quality deteriorated, but they held. Synthesis complete. Sato's voice was weak from oxygen deprivation. Inputting the shutdown sequence now. The ancient interface accepted the genetic authorization. A holographic display showed the swarm network across the galaxy. Thousands of signatures, all connected, all waiting. Sato entered the final command. Her finger hovered over the confirmation. This is it, no going back. Do it, Davis said. Sato activated the shutdown. Nothing happened for 3 seconds that felt like eternity. Then the Nexus shuddered. Neural patterns throughout the chamber changed. The violent attacks stopped. Tendrils retracted. Maintenance organisms scattered. The ancient command had been accepted. Across the galaxy, in 17 different star systems, swarm bioships simultaneously stopped moving. The hive network that connected them broadcast a single message in biochemical signals. Cease function. Return to dormancy. Protocol complete. Galactic observers watched in stunned silence as the unstoppable threat simply stopped. Bioships that had been consuming worlds drifted like empty shells. Nexus structures collapsed. Organic matter breaking down into harmless base components. The war that had seemed unwinnable ended in an instant. Inside the Nexus chamber, Captain Davis barely had strength to speak. Tors, unseal the docking port, we are coming out. Already done, Captain. Tor's voice was thick with emotion. Medical team. Standing by. The boarding team stumbled back through corridors that were now quiet. The organic matter was reverting, no longer hostile, just dying tissue. They reached the Prometheus with oxygen reserves at 2%. Emergency crews pulled them aboard, administering pure oxygen and medical treatment. Davis collapsed in the medical bay, her team around her, all alive, battered, oxygen deprived, hypothermic from their suits failing, but alive. Dr. Sato managed a weak smile. We did it, the shutdown worked. Admiral Foster's face appeared on the medical bay screen. Captain Davis, I do not know whether to court-martial you for recklessness or recommend you for the highest honors humanity can bestow. Save the paperwork for later, Davis replied, her voice hoarse. Did the shutdown affect all swarm units? Every single one, Foster confirmed. Galaxy-wide, they are all going dormant. The war is over. You won. At the Galactic Council, the chamber that had been filled with panic and despair now erupted in cautious celebration. The Chitauri analyst confirmed the data. All swarm signatures across monitored space are ceasing activity. Bioenergy readings are dropping to baseline. They are shutting down. The Scales War Commander stood, his voice carrying across the chamber. A war we were losing, ended by one species, one ship, 47 individuals who refused to accept defeat. Ambassador Grace Reed remained seated, calm as always. Not one ship, commander, one crew willing to risk everything, and one species that learned from its own history that impossible problems often just need different thinking. The Lumen's representative pulsed with overwhelming emotion. You have given the galaxy not just victory, but hope. Hope that intelligence and courage can triumph over overwhelming force. The council voted unanimously. Humanity's probationary status was lifted immediately. Full membership granted with honors. Grace was invited to the main floor, no longer an observer but an equal voice among galactic leaders. 3 days later, Captain Davis stood in the Prometheus medical bay, fully recovered. Her crew was scattered across the ship, some still in treatment, all recovering. The converted mining vessel looked worse for wear, scarred by combat and environmental stress, but still functional. Commander Torres entered, carrying a datapad. Command wants to decommission the Prometheus. They are. Offering us a proper warship, state-of-the-art, fresh from the shipyards. Claire Abbott laughed from her bed. After what this ugly bucket accomplished, they want to replace her. Davis smiled. Tell them thanks, but no thanks, we will keep the Prometheus. She patted the bulkhead affectionately. She is not pretty, but she got the job done. Sometimes that is enough. The Galactic Council requested a formal session, broadcast across all member worlds. Davis and her crew were invited as guests of honor. They arrived to find representatives from every species standing in respect. The Chitauri analyst presented her findings. Captain Davis, your tactical approach achieved what our combined military forces could not. A casualty ratio unprecedented in modern warfare, and you discovered the swarm's true nature, a biological weapon that outlived its creators. The Depth's ambassador spoke. The Council has voted to establish new protocols, combined human-alien military academies, where your species will teach unconventional warfare, creative problem-solving, and the art of questioning assumptions. The Scales commander approached Davis directly. You have earned not just our gratitude, but our respect. Humanity fights with its mind as much as its weapons. That is a lesson we needed to learn. Davis accepted the honors humbly. We did not save the galaxy because we are stronger or smarter. We did it because Earth taught us something. We are a young species. We made weapons that nearly destroyed us. We faced problems that seemed unsolvable. She looked around the chamber. We learned to question assumptions, to look for third options when faced with binary choices. You saw an unbeatable enemy. We saw a problem that had not been properly understood yet. Plans were made to study the dormant swarm, to understand it completely and ensure it never reactivated. Dr. Sato volunteered to lead the xenobiology research team, supported by scientists from a dozen species. 6 months later, the Galactic Council dedicated a monument at their headquarters, a statue depicting the Prometheus, small and ungainly among elegant alien vessels. The plaque read in multiple languages, in honor of humanity's first victory, not through the strength of their ship, but through the strength of their spirit. One ship, one crew, one chance. Ambassador Grace Reed stood before the monument with Captain Davis and the Prometheus crew. Davis studied the statue with amusement. They made us too pretty. The real Prometheus was much uglier. Grace smiled. They are not commemorating the ship. They are commemorating what it represents. That sometimes the solution is not a bigger weapon or larger fleet. She gestured to the stars visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Sometimes it is just a handful of people willing to try something everyone else said was impossible. Pavel joined them. So what is next for the Prometheus? Retirement, museum display. Davis shook her head. The galaxy is a big place, plenty of impossible problems left to solve. She looked at her crew, the people who had followed her into a living nightmare and emerged victorious. Besides, we are just getting started. Humanity has only been out here 50 years. Imagine what we will accomplish in the next 50. Claire grinned. As long as I get to fly, I am in. Torres nodded. Someone has to keep you all from getting too reckless. Sato adjusted her scientific equipment. There is so much to learn, so many mysteries to uncover. Rachel checked her weapon, and so many people who might need help. Davis felt pride in her crew, in her species, in what they had accomplished together. Then let us get back to work. She turned toward the docking bay where the Prometheus waited, scarred but ready. The galaxy just learned what one human ship can do. Time to show them what we do for an encore. As they walked away from the monument, Grace Reed watched them go. These were the people who changed everything, not through force or technology, but through courage and creativity. The galaxy had panicked, and humanity had responded, not with armies, not with superweapons, just 47 people on one converted mining ship who refused to believe any problem was truly unsolvable. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the Council station, full of challenges, mysteries, and opportunities, and somewhere among them, the Prometheus would fly again, carrying the human spirit of innovation and determination to whatever impossible problem needed solving next. The war was over, but humanity's story in the galaxy, that was just beginning.